back with Revved Up, ladies and gentlemen. As always, I am your host, Carter Leonard. Back at it once again, and to the tunes of MCR and the used in their collaborative song, Under Pressure. Welcome to, I believe this is the first August episode. We did not have an episode last week due to it being an off week, but we did have picks. But we'll get into that later on, ladies and gentlemen. Happy August to the Revved Up viewers out there. Um, it's been the last time we had spoke. We had a lot going on. We had a driver get his second career win in just his 15th start. Now we have another driver who also got his second career start, literally after the off week. But we'll get into that in a moment. By the way, today is August 12th. Not only wouldn't have been my mom's 50th birthday, may God rest her soul. She passed away back on November 21st, 2019. Still just a fantastic human being, altogether, but it's always hard. It's always hard when you lose a loved one, something like that. But I know she's watching over me to this very day, and that will not change. And that won't change at all. But we have a lot to. But also August 12th, there was a recent viral thing that went on, and it really did not make a whole lot of sense. There was this one TikToker. Now this is rich coming from me, considering that I'm not on TikTok at all. I do not have, I have never been on TikTok, so that's one thing. There was this theory about this thing called Project Anchor, that the Earth today on August 12th, 2026. As of recording this episode, by the time this episode posts, it'll be the 13th of August. The Earth was supposed to lose gravity for approximately 7.3 seconds. And I did not hear about this. I did not hear about this whole thing until, for anybody who follows NASCAR Tyler on social media, he released his Richmond paint scheme preview for this upcoming Saturday night race at Richmond. And he made a comment about, or will the Earth lose gravity and we will all die? And at first I thought he was just making some random joke, but then I got curious. The curiosity in me crept up. I mean, hey, you know what they say, curiosity killed the cat, right? I decided to do some research to see if that was actually true. And yes, there was a theory. This is a real life theory of if Earth would lose gravity for approximately 7 seconds. So, of course, NASA came immediately to the to the forefront and said that is absolutely false. There's no evidence whatsoever. There was no such thing as Project Anchor in the first place. I had to do some research here. NASA senior science communicator Karen Fox told Newsweek that the outlandish conspiracy theory comes around every single year, which that kind of surprised me too, because this is the first ever time I had heard a theory like that. Well, I have always heard theories of what would happen if the Earth lost gravity for like a split, like 5 to 6 or even 7 seconds, like in this scenario, but I had never heard the theory of it happening on August 12th until today. So she said the Earth will not lose gravity. Earth's gravity or total gravitational force is determined by its mass. The only way for the Earth to lose gravity would be for the Earth system, the combined mass of its core, mantle, crust, ocean, terrestrial water, and atmosphere to lose mass, which of course they already came out and said that there's no science or evidence that it's losing mass at all. But to answer what's Project Anchor, in a January report, fact-checking outlet Snopes examined the Project Anchor claim after it began spreading online. The rumor alleged, and this is a News Nation article, by the way, huge credit to them. The rumor alleged that a secret NASA document had leaked in November 2024, warning that Earth would briefly lose gravity on August 12, 2026, causing mass casualties and global disruption. Snopes rated the claim false, reporting that it found no credible search results that any such NASA project leaked. According to Snopes, the story to appear pick up steam through a copy and paste social media posts, including an Instagram video that claimed NASA was preparing for a 7-second gravitational anomaly. How did I mess that word up? But withholding the information from the public. So, once again, I would argue, it's another doomsday theory that, of course, did not come true. As of recording this video, I am still planted in my chair. I have not lifted off the ground for more than 7 seconds. I did not come crashing down. I have not sustained any injuries so far. Of course, it's only a little, almost 8:30 for where I'm at, but as of right now, that's not happened, and I don't anticipate it to happen. So, there you have it. Anyways, obviously that has nothing to do with today's episode. I just found that to be incredibly hilarious because sometimes you just hear about, trends and stuff, and you're just like, what on earth are we talking about here? It's, yeah, I don't get that. So, Iowa. This past weekend, NASCAR made their annual trip to the Iowa Speedway with the O'Reilly Series on Saturday and the Cup Series race on Sunday. Please do not ask me if I consider Iowa Speedway a short track or not. I personally don't care what it is. It's its own thing. It's Iowa Speedway. That's what I'm calling it. So there you go. So we had both races had drivers winning their second career race. Well, let's get into the Cup Series race. Let's start off. We had some silly season news in the O'Reilly Series that came up. The Haas Factory team, their O'Reilly Series program, announced that Dean Thompson will be fielded in a third full-time entry for the team in 2027. Dean Thompson currently right now drives for Sam Hunt Racing. I don't know why I was blanking on the name there. I'm sorry. I forget where he's at in points. Dean currently sits 18th in points with 0 wins, 0 top 5s, and 3 top 10s. So I was a little surprised that they picked Dean because Dean has always been an interesting driver. He's a driver who's in his early 20s. He spent the last two seasons with Sam Hunt, and he's just kind of right around that middle of the pack driver. He's performed way better than his teammate Harrison Burton. Harrison Burton, who's 2 spots below in 20th, so yes, he has performed better. But this will be the second different team that he's raced at in the O'Reilly Series. Since becoming a rookie, I guess, in 2025. I mean, he ran part-time in 2024, but his first full-time year was 25. So 2027 will be his third upcoming season. And I've also been hearing a lot of rumors that the Haas Factory team's O'Reilly Series lineup could be completely different because the only confirmed driver as of right now is Dean Thompson. I've heard some rumors that Sam Mayer, despite being top 10 in points, he might be on the move to go back somewhere else. I don't know what Sheldon Creed's future looks like, even though Sheldon Creed finally got over the hump and won a race this year. The second race of the year, Atlanta, might I add. So Dean Thompson going to a top organization, and he actually calls it a full circle deal from the NASCAR article written by Dustin Albino. Thompson talked about how he actually has a relationship with Joe Custer, who is, of course, Cole Custer's dad and the president of the Haas factory team, saying the quote, "He has been a huge help for us, being a mentor for finding different teams and giving us direction. My dad and I were so green to all of this. When we first got onto the NASCAR scene, we didn't know anything. Joe was our mentor through all of it and guiding us through all of it. There was always a want to race for his team, but I don't know if it was always in the cards. It's finally happening. It finally happening is a pretty cool full circle deal." And to confirm his age, he's currently 24 years old, so still a young driver in his own right. Big congrats to Dean. When they said that it was going to be a media availability for them, I automatically thought the worst for their Cup program, but nope, they are dead set with still staying in the Cup Series, maintaining their charter, the 41 car, currently piloted by Cole Custer. Cole, 33rd in points, was no wins, no top fives, no top tens. Ever since Stewart Haas Racing shut down, the 41 car has been the only remaining piece left, and they've been on the struggle bus for a while. They did switch to Chevrolet this year and had have Hendrick engines in their cars now, but so far it's not made the biggest difference. So, but who knows? Maybe they'll get better down the line, and Haas will rebuild itself as a strong team, but who knows? Anyways, let's talk about should we go Cup or O'Reilly's first? Since we're on the subject of, I guess we'll go Cup first. Ty Gibbs got the job done in the Iowa Corn 350 at Iowa Speedway. His second win of his career, the second win of the season. He now currently moves to second in the overall points. Ty had to work for this one. Just like at Bristol, he held off his teammate Christopher Bell, who now has 7 runner-up finishes this year. So that Christopher Bell, 7 runner-up finishes, close but no cigar so far this year for him. And it's just been, and it's not like Bell's been having a bad season by any means. Right now, as we go into Richmond, he currently sits 6th in the points, and it looked like he was going to dominate the later portions of the race after he got by the 12 car of Ryan Blaney, which honestly, that was the guy that I had circled for the weekend. Of course, that's a little bit rich coming from me, because even though we didn't have an episode, I did have Ty Gibbs winning at Iowa, and lo and behold, I got it correct somehow. But Ryan Blaney was the one that I was most certainly watching if Gibbs did not win, simply because not only did he win the inaugural race at Iowa, when we made our picks before practice and qualifying, Ryan Blaney was the guy to beat. He was the best on the long runs, best of the 30-lap averages. I'm thinking, man, if there's anyone to beat this weekend, it's got to be that 12 car. But Ty Gibbs was kind of right there with him as well. He was like the second fastest in practice. Didn't have the best, well, he actually had the best qualifying stint of any of the JGR cars. He actually qualified 6th. And the reason for that is because excluding Christopher Bell, he didn't really have a great qualifying session either. But excluding that, JGR had a little bit of trouble with their other 2 cars of both Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe when they had brake problems. Denny Hamlin in particular had the biggest issues out of both of them, discussing how anytime when he went on a 2 to 3 lap run in practice, the brake pedal would automatically go to the floor, and it was just not computing for him. It was just not working for him. So they had to go and change that, and as well as the 19. I don't recall if Briscoe said the exact same thing, but he was having brake issues in of itself. And that when something like that happens at a track like that, it just kind of throws you in for a loop. So, but JGR, being the team that has handled these types of situations before, did what they needed to do to fix it, and they went from 1 car beginning in the top 10 to having all 4 cars finish inside the top 10. You had Gibbs winning, Bell second, Denny Hamlin, despite the brake concerns, still came home with a top 5 finish. That marks his 13th of the year. most of any driver in the field, of course, with the points lead. And Chase Briscoe came home sixth. So a lot of people were concerned about that, but JGR and Toyota were had a great day. There was a lot of trouble. There was a decent amount of trouble earlier in the race. Actually, let me backtrack for a minute. We'll get into Tyler Reddick here in a minute. I do want to talk about the winner, Ty Gibbs, though. Ty Gibbs, once again, as I mentioned, came home with the victory, held off Christopher Bell. And how he held off Christopher Bell was... Actually, we got to go back to the beginning. After Ryan Blaney took the green and white checkered in stage one, everybody came down for service, for pit stops, and Ty Gibbs, who was right around the top 5 and top 10, had a very, very slow pit stop. And the jack apparently dropped, and they had to put a lug nut, make sure the lug nut was secure on that car. Thankfully, it was, but Ty Gibbs fell all the way back to 28th on that following restart. And knowing how the next gen is at tracks like this, how difficult it is to pass, it was going to be a war of attrition if that 54 wanted to get back up front. But he went from 28th all the way back up to the front throughout stage 2 and throughout that long green flag run in stage 3, eventually getting close to Christopher Bell. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, okay, well, when they come back for green black pit stops, what's Ty Gibbs going to do here? What's that 54 group going to do that 20 team is not? And thanks to the brilliance of young crew chief Tyler Allen, they opted to take 2 tires instead of 4, leapfrogging the 20 car in the process, and held Christopher Bell off for that last stint of the run. Of course, he didn't lead the entire run. I believe it was Ross Chastain who stayed out for a little bit longer, hoping for a caution. Didn't end up getting it, so they had to come down and pit, and then that eventually cycled the 54 and 20 to first and second. Bada bing, bada boom. You know how the rest goes. A lot of people were not pleased at the finish of this race because they thought it was another aero thing. Clearly, Christopher Bell had 4 fresh tires, compared to Ty Gibbs' 2. And they were frustrated that 20 car was not able to get around him. But you can say that aero had a lot to do with it, and I can also say that Christopher Bell kind of just, I wouldn't say pushed the issue too hard, but more so there was Bell did so many things. He did different entries into the corner. He went up a little bit higher on the track to try to do a crossover moves a couple times, but just Ty Gibbs, whether he was using his actual mirrors or, as he mentioned in the Dale Jr. download, the Horde digital cameras, he was playing good defense. He did what he needed to do there, and holding off, again, just like his Bristol win, holding off one of the best in the sport in Christopher Bell. So yeah, Bell was trying everything. And there was a lot of times where you're thinking, oh, Bell's starting to reel him in. He's going to enter the corner in a little bit better this time. And then he kind of slides up the racetrack a little bit, which is actually kind of weird that they're blaming aero for this. And listen, I'm not saying the next gen car has not produced aero blocking or any bad things regarding aero. It 1000% has. Believe me, I have been a big complainer of that for God knows how long. However, earlier in the stage 3 run, Ryan Blaney and, of course, Christopher Bell, who was running second, were literally in that exact same position. Bell was trying to chase down the leader. This time, however, that time, Bell was able to get around Blaney. He was able to clear Blaney for the lead. And that's why a lot of people were confused. It's well, he ran down Blaney in that earlier part of the stage 3 run. How come he couldn't get by Ty? And to be fair, Ty also had a pretty decent race car, so there's that. And Bell was trying everything that he possibly could. I mean, as soon as they got in the lap traffic, I'm thinking, okay, this is where the 20 is going to strike. This is where the 20 is going to get alongside of him and finally get around him. And it's going to be hasta la vista from there on out. That was never the case. Ty Gibbs hanged on. He led about 20 laps the entire race and took the checkered flag for his second win of 2026. Christopher Bell, his 10th top 5 finish of the year, but it's also his 7th runner-up. And Christopher Bell called it a bad second place finish. And after a while, you start to get very frustrated. But a lot of people were upset that Bell didn't try to move Gibbs. And Yeah, I can understand that, but you also got to understand how Christopher Bell won his the most recent Cup race that he did win, which was last year's Bristol Night Race. Which, Lord Almighty, we're coming up on a year on that actually. Um, when he was leading, obviously it was a late race restart. It was a completely different scenario than a long green flag run. But when Brad Keselowski tried to do the bump and run on Christopher Bell, it actually gave him an advantage. Of course, they restructured the front and back end bumpers of these cars, but I don't know how much of a difference that actually makes because we haven't really seen it in action as much. And not only that, Christopher Bell, like he he's aggressive, but he also races you clean. I don't think I've ever seen an instance where Bell blatantly dumps someone or blatantly moves somebody out of the way for the win. He just casually makes his way up to the front. If he has the faster car, he'll hold on for the time being, and he goes to victory lane. And a lot of people are making fun of Bell for, having these second place finishes, but a lot of people forget he's also a 13-time winner in the Cup Series. So it's not like he's been in the series for a long time and just hasn't gotten it done. He is in the double digits in career wins. It's just 2026 has just not treated him kindly, but you got to take the good with the bad sometimes. But Ty ran a great race. He did what he needed to do to get by, or that strategy call was just absolutely perfect. Tyler Allen once again giving himself a pat on the back, just like, let's do something we have nobody else is doing. Let's take 2 here instead of 4. I think it had to have been right sides only. So yeah, there you have it with that. Of course, when you look at the chase standings now going into this race, and oh, by the way, one last thing we will talk about for the Iowa race. Tyler Reddick, what a fall from grace. He has lost over 250 points this whole summer. He now drops to 4th in the standings. Of course, still 5 wins on the year, but man, and still has clinched a chase spot, but man, this is wow. I wouldn't be surprised if Chase Briscoe somehow leapfrogs Tyler Reddick for 4th in the standings. And also we saw a lot of other jumbling in the chase standings as well. Carson Osavar had his top 5 in point standings last for only 1 week. Did not have a good day at Iowa. Came home in the 30s. He's now dropped to 8th in the standings. Not a good day for Kyle Larson as well. Had a mechanical failure or some sort of mechanical issue to where he got back out but was multiple laps down. Still remains 10th in points. William Byron, virtually silent for majority of the day. Joey Logano, virtually silent for majority of the day. Trackhouse had a solid day for once. You had a couple of their drivers leading laps. Connor Zilich had one of his best finishes of the year, came home 11th after starting 8th. SVG drops 1 spot to 15th in the standings, but we're going to another short track, and the last time we went to a short track, which was Wilkesboro, SVG led a bunch of laps and collected some points. So, but back to Ty Gibbs, one last time. What a turnaround season this guy is having. I know we keep saying it, but it's the truth because this time last year, Gibbs was sitting 16th in points, and we were ever thinking, man, is this dude ever going to find success in the Cup Series? That was a genuine question at that time. And when you're driving for a team like Joe Gibbs Racing, even if you're the grandson or not, you are expected to, do well. But ever since the comments earlier in the year by former JGR competition director and crew chief Chris Gabehart saying, oh, Gibbs is not, he's not given the same treatment as everybody else in the, in that shop. Ever since Circuit of the Americas and onwards, a switch flipped. I don't know what it was. I don't know how, but he's been on a roll. He also has the second, before this race, he had the second most points scored on short tracks at second behind Joey Logano with 151. And he also had the most stage points scored So far through 22 races before Iowa, he had 181 points, and then the most points scored in the entire month of July with 216. So there's anybody who's been heating up as of late, even though he doesn't have as much wins as some of the other guys, it's been Ty Gibbs. A lot of people don't want to hear it. He's arrived. This is the Ty Gibbs that a lot of people have been anticipating to see in Cup, and now we finally got a good view of it. Yeah, man, Iowa was crazy. The racing overall was fine. Like, I saw a lot of people give this race like a C letter grade or something like that. I'm kind of right around that exact same boat. Of course, we've been getting a lot of bits and pieces of the 2027 schedule. Iowa will be back on the schedule next year. However, it will be July 4th weekend, and it has recently been announced that they will get $20 million in renovations, which includes a full-blown repave. So when we go back to Iowa next summer, we will be racing on a whole different surface. So this was the last time we had ran on the old surface, and time will only tell how the racing will be compared to the old surface compared to the new one. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that front. I know I keep always saying I guess we'll just have to wait and see, but point still stands. So yeah. Saturday's O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race was, I would argue, a lot better race. A little bit in the high 80s. I give it like an 81 overall. The late race stages of the race were just absolutely chaotic. Carson Quaffle, back-to-back wins. After he captured his first win at the Brickyard, he said, let me get another one real quick. So now he has 2 wins on the year, still second in points behind his JRM teammate, Justin Allgaier, who's just had an insane year. Of course, we'll have the points reset after Daytona, but regardless, or at least I think we'll have the points reset there. I will check on that because it's always been a little bit later. Yep, so the chase will begin at Darlington. But we saw a lot of jumbling in the pack for that. Quaffle, second win of the year with JRM. Of course, his future is still undecided from here on out because the Brickyard, they made the comment saying Carson Quaffle is racing for his job right now. And I think the last 2 weeks, he's made a pretty good impression. So even if Quaffle, snuck his way around the carnage at the end of the Saturday's race, he still has proven why he belongs in that series and why he belongs at JRM in particular. The drivers who have clinched the chase spot in the O'Reilly series so far have been Justin Allgaier, Carson Quaffle, Sheldon Creed, defending series champion Jesse Love, Corey Day, Brandon Jones, Austin Hill, and Sammy Smith. The last 4 spots in the 12 are up for grabs. You have Parker Retzlaff in 9th, who's having still a really solid year. Sam Mayer in 10th, William Swalch in 7th, and Brent Cruz 12th in the final one. The first 4 out are Taylor Gray, Cruz's JGR teammate, in 13th. It's +1 to the good for Brent Cruz right now. So when we go to Daytona, because they will have the next 2 off, they will have the next 2 weeks off. Cruz will be 1 point to the good at entering that the Daytona night race for them on Saturday. Rajah Caruth, huge shout out to him, driving the 88 for Junior Motorsports, had his best career finish at Iowa, came home in second behind Quaffle. 1 spot short of that first career win. It would have been absolutely amazing to have seen him capture the win, but he's still in it, at least for the time being. Ryan Sieg had his first career pole at Iowa on Saturday, led a good chunk of the earlier stage. I believe, he captured the stage 1 victory, but just kind of followed off towards the end. And Retzlaff's teammate Anthony Alfredo in 16th. So those are the first 4 out of the point standings. I do want to talk about Brent Cruz a little bit because he was a little bit of a wrecking ball this race. Driver of the 19 for Joe Gibbs Racing, 18 years old, is now he now has his back up against the wall going into Daytona. He has never raced at Daytona in a Rally Series car. And he's raced at Talladega. That's the only closest thing similar. But Daytona, despite it still being the exact same type of racing, it's a different animal. He now has to. He doesn't necessarily have to win, but he has to stay out of trouble. But then again, he should have done that this past weekend. I've had the opportunity to sit down with Brent Cruz. Got a great head on his shoulders. He was very nice when I talked to him. He, could be the heir apparent to Denny Hamlin. I don't want to put too much pressure on him. But Justin Allgaier said it best. You're too good to be making these types of moves at the end of the race. He was causing a lot of carnage, especially the big wreck that involved Allgaier and a lot of other contenders as well. Both Cruz and Allgaier were able to keep going, but the damage of them having good finishes were practically done from there on out. You needed a clean day, you needed a solid day, and he was inside the top 5 and 10 for majority of the day. Like, he was trying to make his way up through the field, but he kind of pushed a lot of people up the track. He even pushed eventual race winner Carson Quaffle up the track a couple times. Not out of purpose or anything like that, but just being a little bit too over aggressive and stepping on his own tail, so to speak. If that figure of speech means anything or makes sense. So, yeah, it should be interesting how he handles that pressure at Daytona. Even if he doesn't make the chase, it's a good learning experience for him. Hey, when it comes to points racing and stuff like that, you got to be smarter than that. And I feel like, he should have, done a lot better than that. But that's just how it goes sometimes. All right, and that was Iowa Speedway. Great to be back after the off week. Have had a lot, had a lot went on during the weekend, both good and bad, depending on how you look at it. But overall, pretty solid weekend altogether. Now we get into the weekly news segment, ladies and gentlemen. We had some more schedule news come out recently that the NASCAR All-Star Race, which surprisingly is going to last another year, will be back at North Wilkesboro for 2027. And not only that, it will also be a triple header weekend with the O'Reilly Series racing on May 22nd of next year, marking the first time the series has been to North Wilkesboro Speedway since 1985. And that race date was actually the 1985 Coca-Cola 300 back on September 15th of 1985 at North Wilkesboro Speedway, with Tommy Houston winning the pole and Jack Ingram winning the race and going on to win that title this year. But back to the present day, the Truck Series will once again be back at North Wilkesboro. They'll be there on Friday, May 21st, and we might actually get a Truck Series night race at North Wilkesboro for once, which that's honestly should have been the thing from the jump, but regardless, we have it. And then the Cup Series All-Star Race will be May 23rd on that Sunday. How the All-Star Race rules will work this time around has yet to be determined. It was heavily rumored that North Wilkesboro was going to get the All-Star Race again after Dover had it this year. North Wilkesboro had their first points-paying race this year since 1996, with Joey Logano taking the win at Wilkesboro in dominating fashion. Only had 5 cars on the lead lap, but then again, that's how North Wilkesboro races were. So, in a way, it kind of was vintage NASCAR, if you think about it. So a little bit disappointed that its points race is off for the time being, but at least it still has a place on the schedule regardless. Honestly, I'm glad it's not Dover again. That race, of course, it has significant meaning now for other reasons, but still, that race was not good. It was just a normal Dover race that was 50 laps shorter, because the annual Dover race that we normally have is about 400 laps. And this one was 50 laps shorter in the All-Star race, and pretty much everybody got in. So, really wasn't that much of an All-Star race, but regardless. So, Yeah, a little bit of tidbits regarding the Cup Series schedule, and that's how it's normally been. We of course have the Daytona 500 dates. It looks like Homestead Miami will be the regular season, will be the season finale for the second year in a row. Even though there were talks before about the season finale um, being rotated each and every year. I guess that's not happening for 2027. Which, you know what? It being at Homestead again, I'm 1000% fine with. We had the normal track dates. Of course, I mentioned the Iowa date will be July 4th weekend. Still some things on the schedule for all three series are still being held up. Apparently, NASCAR wants to go back to the Chicago street race. If they don't, we'll still have Chicagoland to look forward to. Um, San Diego is still on the list so far, but we'll see how that goes. Which honestly, I wouldn't mind San Diego and Chicago Street being both on the schedule. But if they wanted to make Chicagoland and Chicago, an interchangeable thing year in and year out, they're more welcome to do it. But it's just a lot of legislation and laws that have to be passed from the overall city to get that passed. Whereas at Chicagoland, they could just go out to Joliet. They could do whatever they want with it. So it is what it is. So yeah, a lot of holdouts on the schedule from there. But yeah, the All Star Race location and date have pretty much been confirmed for late May. Once again, the week before the Coke 600. I'm assuming that will be the final race of the Fox portion of the schedule. Whereas the Coke 600 will take place on Prime, and they're on out. So there you have it with that. In other news, Corey Heim, as we've talked about it, two-time Cup Series winner already in just 15 starts. According to Alan Cavanna, a tweet from Alan Cavanna, in the recent episode of the Holler Talk, Corey Heim will not be eligible to win Rookie of the Year for the 2027 season, despite it being his first full-time year in Cup next year. Mike Ford, NASCAR's, this is from Racer.com. The article states, Mike Ford, NASCAR's Vice President of Racing Communications, revealed as much as during the latest episode of the Holler Talk podcast, the conversation centered around whether Corey Heim will be eligible in the 2027 as he goes full-time with 2311 Racing. Heim has been making Cup Series starts since 2024. The new criteria per Ford is that in the Cup Series, a driver can have no more than 12 starts prior to the season they want to declare for Rookie of the Year. It is 10 starts in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and 8 in the Craftsman Truck Series. A driver is not automatically eligible upon entering a new series and running it full time for the first time. A team must apply for a driver to be Rookie of the Year contender, and NASCAR will then consider the request. The change in criteria comes after NASCAR is performing a case-by-case review of requests. It resulted in some drivers having very few previous starts under their belts, and others having a good amount but still being declared eligible. Hine has made 15 starts in the NASCAR Cup Series since 2024, has 4 more starts left on the schedule this season. Ford also revealed that Heim could have competed for Rookie of the Year this season, but did not apply for it. Well, to be fair, Mr. Ford, they did not. They still kept their 3-car lineup the same. So it's not like they could have just gotten the 4th charter, because that's the new charter rule. They still kept Wallace, Herbst, and Reddick in their exact same spots. Which I think, I don't know how long ago they made this rule change, because if you look back a few years ago, the two very obvious examples were both Noah Gragson and Ty Gibbs, who battled for Rookie of the Year in 2023. If you look back in 2022, both of them made more than 12 Cup Series starts. Of course, Noah Gragson had a part-time schedule with Colleague Racing at the time. That was premeditated. Ty Gibbs, on the other hand, he had to fill in for the remainder of the year for the now retired Kurt Busch, so that wasn't planned at all. But regardless, he still started in 15 or more races, and those two were still eligible for Rookie of the Year. And Ty Gibbs went on to win Rookie of the Year in 2023. Of course, his competition was pretty much eliminated by then, but he was still eligible. The rule is that he was still eligible to do so. End of discussion from there on out. Honestly, I think it's a little bit ridiculous, because I don't remember when they made this rule change, but Ford then goes on to explain, I think 7 starts was always out there. If you pass the threshold of 7, then the NASCAR Rookie Committee would be able to have a discussion. they could say, okay, he had 8 or he had 9 or he had 10. He didn't go that far above. He wants to be a rookie and wants to shine a light on the program and on the series. It's good for the sport for him to be part of the rookie program. But I think last year or the year before, we kind of put a line in the sand and said, hey, let's make it easy for everybody, because it did get good for a while there, a little bit confusing on not understanding how this person is a rookie with 20 starts last year or whatever. We put some numbers. So that's pretty much the end of the article. So now that I'm looking at it now, by default, it's already been confirmed that Jesse Love, who will be a rookie next year in Cup, he's not made more than 12 starts. I can guarantee you that. He'll win Rookie of the Year unless some other rookie surprise comes, which I've not heard anything about that. But I don't know if Corey is going to really particularly care that much because, well, I think he's surpassed the idea of what a rookie should look like. Of course, he's only made 15 starts in his entire career and won 2 races. He's already cemented himself as a future star. So, again, I think it's a little bit stupid because we've had drivers in the past who have literally gone over that threshold of 12 or more races, and they still competed for Rookie of the Year. So, I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of that, but I could see why a lot of other people do not like that. One last thing that we will talk about before getting into the Richmond preview this weekend. Josh Berry, the current driver of the number 21 Ford Mustang for the Wood brothers, recently had a one-on-one interview basically talking about how, despite the fact that he's a free agent, he has no NASCAR contract at all for the 2027 season. Of course, it was announced earlier in the summer, Josh Berry will not be returning. Jesse Love will be in that seat now. In an interview, he said, he was asked about, coming up as a 4th place finish at Iowa, which I forgot to add that. He came up with a 4th place finish at Iowa. And he was talked about, how as a Cup Series winner, he won the Las Vegas spring race last year. He was asked, like, have you been, approached by any other teams in the garage area? They're like, hey, we would like to have you behind the wheel. He says, and I quote, we've had conversations. We've had good ones. We've had bad ones. We've had ones that we thought had potential. We've had ones that we sat down and they asked for $3 million. So it's been a little bit of a challenge working through all that. To be honest, I'm kind of to the point now where I can't do much else other than just try to focus on Sundays and try to have days like we've had in the last couple of weeks. Honestly, I feel like if we turn this deal around and run like we have the last 3 races and find ourselves in the top 5 and top 10 and nothing materializes, I kind of feel it shows more about the system than it does about me. We'll just work through as it comes. I have always admired Josh Berry's story. We always hear it, when we talked about his Vegas win, the former bank teller turned Cup Series winner, did some part-time starts for JRM in 2013 and 2014. Then basically just stayed in the short track, late model scene and basically stayed in touch with Dale Jr. He won a lot of races for their JRM program down there. And then Dale Jr. said, hey, would you like to run, some Xfinity Series races again? He's like, yeah, I would. And then Josh Berry in 2021 got his very first win at Martinsville. And, we're like, oh, snap. This guy has the talent to win in this series. He should be full-time. And then he won again later in the year, filling in for the late Michael Annett, who missed the remainder of that season and then substantially retired afterwards. Rest in peace, Michael Annett. And then Barry got that full-time opportunity in 2022, and you're thinking, man, this guy, he's not the most well-rounded when it comes to funding. A lot of the sponsorship that he had, JRM definitely helped out with it. He had some Bass Pro on there, some Harrison's, outdoor equipment and stuff like that. That one tire company, I forget what its name was, but he was riffing off wins and even made a Championship 4 appearance in 2022. 23 had another solid year, didn't get the victory lane, then went full-time Cup Series racing in 2024 for Stewart Haas Racing after his part-time efforts in 2023, filling in for guys like Alex Bowman and Chase Elliott, who both had injuries that year. Then his rookie year in Cup was kind of up and down. I mean, he had a big shoes to fill, replacing a Hall of Famer in Kevin Harvick in that 4 car. And then, as we all know, that was the final year of Stewart Haas Racing operating as a team. And Josh Berry had to look elsewhere, but it didn't take long for him to find a home at the Wood Brothers. And when Berry won his first Cup race in just his fifth start with the team, you're thinking, man, Josh Berry might be here to stay. You know, the Wood Brothers are finally going to turn this thing around, and we're going to see, you know, him, be a solid driver throughout be like a Greg Biffle type driver throughout the rest of his career. And so far, it's just not been, with the Wood Brothers, of course, they're, releasing him at the end of this year. It's just not been what he had hoped for. And there's no shame if Berry went back down to the O'Reilly Series and found a spot there and was able to win races there by any stretch of the imagination. I wouldn't be surprised if Dale Jr., called him up and said, "Hey, would you like a full-time ride there?" But I don't know if that's possible either, And he also, as mentioned in the quote, he talked he talked a lot about how I feel like it kind of shows more about the system than it does about me. And that's the sad reality about it, too, because we often talk about how NASCAR's business model isn't always favorable for a lot of people. And Josh Berry is just one of those in that circle of non-favorable, because Berry does not come with a lot of outside funding, and of course you need a certain amount of money to race. That's just a given. That's just how it's always been. You need some sort of financial backing with you. But you see a lot of these guys who are taking up these Cup seats because they have like sponsors going with them for everywhere they go. Riley Herbst is a perfect example. I never thought Riley Herbst was ready for Cup. And some people have connections. We talked about Ty Gibbs. His grandfather is literally the team owner. And, or just, but then again, for Josh Berry, like, it's not that he doesn't, have what it takes. A lot of Josh Berry's time with the Wood Brothers has resulted in a lot of wrecked race cars. He does not keep the car clean at all. Some of the mistakes are his own doing. Some of them aren't. Like, I remember when we opened up the chase for the championship last year. I still hate being reminded of the playoffs, but here we are. He literally DNF'd in the first 3 races of the round and got eliminated immediately. Like, every single week he had something go on, except for New Hampshire. As New Hampshire was his best finish as of late, which we are coming up to in a couple of weeks. But he, as much as I loved it when he won at Vegas, he did not, it's just not been good. It's not been good for him. I hope that he finds a full-time ride somewhere, because I think a team in the lower series or maybe some lower Cup team would probably take him. He has the mature, of course he's, in his mid-30s. He's a hard-nosed racer. He's worked hard. He's paid his dues. He has a lot of traits that a lot of team owners like. But how realistic is it that he's going to get a Cup Series seat next year is beyond me, because a lot of the seats are either that he could have gone to or either filled up or they're in the works. I mean, I don't know what Front Row Motorsports is doing. Jerry Freese says he wants Noah Gragson back. I've yet to hear an announcement on his extension. The 10 car could be opening, but there's conversations that Ty Dillon might return for another year. There's that to keep in mind. There's a lot. There's a lot that's going on that's not in Berry's favor. Some of it have been good conversations, some of them haven't been, and some of them want money. Basically, is what we're summing it up here. So hopefully Berry gets this situation solved. But the only thing that he can continue doing is, as I would call it, chop wood and carry water. Just keep carrying it on throughout the rest of the year and see what happens, and we'll see how it goes here. But it just really sucks to see, because as soon as he got to the top level, you're thinking, oh man, he's gonna have a, not the longest career, but he's gonna have a decently solid career, and he might have a couple wins under his belt. Now I'm curious if Josh Berry will ever be back in a Cup car at all beyond this year. But again, that's just one of those wait and see sorts of things. But hoping Josh Berry has continues to have solid results like he did at Iowa throughout the rest of the year, and also finds a brand new home. Alrighty, let's take a look at the podcast points heading into after Iowa, heading into Richmond Saturday. Adam still maintains his points lead. He now sits at first with 135 points. He picked Chase Briscoe to win. He comes home with 5 points, so 130 plus 5 equals 135. Emma has been the closest to the lead that she has been in a very long while. She sits 3 points back at 132 in second. She picked Ryan Blaney to win at Iowa. Blaney came home, I believe, in third, was it? I would have to check that again. I believe it was third. Yeah, Blaney came home third. Yeah, so Ryan Blaney came home third. So she was awarded 10 points for a top 5 finish. So she sits at 132. I was technically the big winner of the week. I got the most points out of anybody. I picked Ty Gibbs to win. I still sit at third though, so my total is at 124. So, oh boy, man. Hopefully I can rebound somehow and have a good last 12 race stretch throughout the rest of the year. But who knows on that? But this weekend, we head to Richmond Raceway. We have the Truck Series race Friday night. It's the Blacks Tires 250 from Richmond, and then the Cookout 400 at Saturday, August 15th. Richmond, the last 2 Cup Series races have been won by Austin Dillon. Of course, you had the Madhouse Mayhem of 2024 was Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin, and then Austin Dillon said, you know what, I don't like how I did it last year, let me do this again, and then he rebounded and won again at Richmond last year. So while he's not the odds-on favorite to win at Richmond, Richard Boswell, who is Austin Dillon's crew chief at Richard Childress Racing, talked about how, despite them not being the heavy favorite, they are still ones that will have targets on their backs, so to speak. He was on Sirius XM NASCAR radio, and I believe it was either, can't figure out who exactly asked the question, but he says, we just can't beat ourselves. We just have to make minor tweaks to what we have and our baseline, which I don't know, like, what they did a year apart from winning at Richmond besides running clean. I don't know if they changed any setups. I don't know if there was much they could really change, or they brought the same car like they did last year, which I want to assume that they did, because the 2024 car was bad fast. So was the 2025 car. So while I'm not picking Austin Dillon to necessarily win this race, I wouldn't count him out if the last 2 years have taught us anything. But yeah, so let's take a look at the weekend schedule for the 14th and 15th. So practice begins for the Craftsman Truck Series begins at 1 p.m. and qualifying following after at 2:05 p.m. on FS2. Then you have Cup Series practice at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which finally we got 50-minute practices again. So that'll bode well for a lot of drivers on True TV, with qualifying following right after at 4:40 p.m. And then at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, the Craftsman Truck Series will race at Richmond on FS1. And then to round out the schedule, Saturday, August 15th, the Cookout 400 for the NASCAR Cup Series, race number 24, will race on at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on USA Sports. Speaking of USA Sports, USA earned 1.9 million viewers for Sunday's Cup race at Iowa. Please stop putting races on FS1 and USA Network. Thank you. But now let's get into picks, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about picks for a second. Since I called the Cup winner, I get to go first with picks this week. Trucks, I think it's pretty simple. I want to go for the simple pick and go with Lane Riggs, but my gut tells me that someone else is going to win. I'm going to go with a guy who needs another win to really put himself into that championship fight once again, because considering he's 100 points out. Give me Caden Honeycutt. You know, he's not won an oval yet, but Friday night from Richmond could be the night. So I'm taking the 11 truck of Caden Honeycutt to get his first short track oval win. Then, for the main event, ladies and gentlemen, on Saturday night, who do I think is going to win? I mean, it is another short track. Ty Gibbs could very much well go back-to-back in this race. Ryan Blaney, good at short tracks as well, although he has never been the victory lane at Richmond. That could be the night that he gets it done. Denny Hamlin, I mean, literally has won 2 races in the next-gen era at Richmond. At least I think he has. Correct me if I'm wrong. No, he's only won once at Richmond, and that was actually no, twice, 2022 and 2024. Yeah, how did I forget those? I don't know. Anyways, I think a Toyota driver will win again. However, though, I'm down between Hamlin or Bell. Bell has been painstakingly close to winning. He's got a breakthrough at some point, right? We are going to New Hampshire. That is, statistically speaking, his best racetrack. Give me Bell. The streak's got to come then eventually. Give me Christopher Bell to win. So, yeah, an all Toyota pick. All Toyota picks, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, to recap my picks for the truck race Friday night, I have Caden Honeycutt, and for the Cup race at Richmond, I have Christopher Bell. So that will do it for race picks, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, if you follow us on our official X page, we will post race picks for everybody, both Adam and Emma, on the Twitter page, so you guys know who exactly is going with who. The Bell pick might backfire on me. He might finish runner-up for the 8th time, or he might break through and finally win. Who knows? So he's won here multiple times before, so in the O'Reilly series at least, so I can't say that my pick is fully out of left field. But there you go. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for this week's episode of Revved Up. Thank you once again for listening in to me blabber all by myself. Tune in next week as we preview who will win at the Magic Mile and who will raise the lobster, as we only have 3 races remaining before the chase for the NASCAR Cup Series title begins, and we'll get to see who will win those championships. So, as always, I am your host, Carter Leonard, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.